It's day 24 of the D-Rose Sneaker Challenge. I figured, let's stick with the Englewoods. So because I think you guys will get a good kick out of this, here is the box I have for these D-Rose Englewood 2s. And what's funny to me is that this box has the original part of the box, and then the person put a Nike box on top as a way to have a closed lid and be able to close them up. Not the weird, well, actually probably the weirdest way I've got a pair of shoes with a box, but I do appreciate it. No, some box is better than no box. But there was no shoes in there. That's because I got them right here. These are D-Rose Englewood 2s, and honestly, this shoe to me is probably my favorite of the D-Rose Englewood line that at least I have myself, besides maybe I guess the Boost ones. The Boost ones are pretty cool too. But the 2s to me have the most distinct design language to them while also still looking like they would be a pretty decent performer on court for people who like low tops. So, you know, when taking a look at these Englewood 2s, the first thing that I really noticed and I've always thought was interesting was the way this upper has this design to it. These different, you know, kind of lines in this raised material on here on the synthetic leather upper is actually pretty interesting. To me, it's super reminiscent of the foam posits, even though this isn't a foam posit material. It's just whenever I see a pair of Englewood 2s, my mind immediately goes to the foam posits as if there was like a low top version of them. And it's just something I think to be really kind of interesting and cool. But, you know, we're talking about a D-Rose shoe and not Nike shoes right now. So what kind of makes this shoe stand out as a D-Rose shoe? Well, you obviously got that D-Rose logo there on the tongue. You know, on the laces, actually, they gave you this little lace jewelry piece that has the D-Rose logo on it. This isn't as nice as the ones you'd get on like the Rose 4.5s, but it is just kind of like a nice little added touch. You, of course, have the 3 stripes on the back. You know, that's just a classic thing to have on a pair of D-Rose shoes, so it's nice when you see as D-Rose blows past you. And it does carry on to the heel on the outsole, which is nice too. Of course, you also have Derek's signature here on the midsole too, and those are some of the main pieces that really remind you that this is, in fact, a D-Rose basketball shoe. But let's talk about like some of the other stuff of this shoe that also makes it familiar with the rest of Adidas' design language and the brand at the time. So this midsole might look familiar to some of you guys, and it should, because it's very similar, if not the exact same midsole tooling that was on the Adidas Crazy Quick on the D-Rose 773 2s. We talked about it earlier in the month, but on the D-Rose 4s, they basically use the same type of pure motion setup at the time and give you a little bit of a thicker traction to it, where it isn't as pliable and as thin as this traction is. However, Crazy Quicks, 773 2s, and this shoe, this traction has always been great. And I will say I've never actually like really played basketball on, but I would wear the shoe casually and play basketball with my friends like at lunch back in high school. I do remember that, like, even if I was wearing these, while the cushion was not great, the traction was fantastic. And that's something that you kind of always look for in a shoe. At least for me, my favorite thing is to look for traction. Cushion is a thing that, depending upon your play style and what you want, it's not the biggest deal. It's something you do want, of course, but it doesn't need to necessarily be bounce or boost. But this was a bounce, it would be pretty great, or even like a light strike, I suppose. But you know what is lax in cushion, it makes up for in court feel, because the way that the shoe and the pure motion setup is made is really so that you can have a lot of great court feel with the shoe, and that's what a lot of these different grooves in here are meant to give you, these different flex points, so it can move with the shape of your foot as you're doing a crossover, stopping on a pivot, all these sorts of things. It doesn't have a sprint frame on this pair. There is a TPU cup that's back here, that is keeping your foot locked into the footbed, but there's no actual, sprint frame on this shoe, which some people really liked at the time because, sprint frames usually mean they were narrower in terms of how they fit and wore. I really do like the shoe from a look standpoint. This colorway is definitely the most loud colorway I have, and because of that, I've worn it the least. You can tell by when you look at this outsole how clean it is, and I haven't cleaned this up at all. This is literally just how the shoe is, and I've had this shoe for maybe like 5 to 6 years, but it's just been like a part of my D-Rose collection, because it's a colorway that I really do like and that I had never really seen much of before. And this colorway, like I said, is dope. I mean, it goes perfect with some Knicks gear, but otherwise, it's kind of hard to figure out, what I would rock it with and how I would go about, wearing these. But I am a fan of them. The 773 line never really took off the way some people would have hoped for it to. I mean, we've had multiple iterations of it, but the 773 line not taking off, I think, is also why the Englewood line itself didn't really take off, because this was meant to be like a low cut of that shoe usually. And with this model in particular, I remember getting these at the outlet, not this pair, but getting the other 2 colorways I have at the outlet. I think I spent like maybe 80 bucks in total for the 2, and the retail on them was 100, I believe. So when that, is the case, it's really easy to like, understand why like certain things didn't really pick up and catch on. But the other reason why these shoes might not have picked up and caught on for some people comes down to the looks. I did see some people commenting on the on the Englewood 3.0's review from yesterday, they didn't really like them. And they can see why, Derek himself maybe didn't like them either. I don't really know how Derek felt about, the team shoes. Like, it's hard for me to say to how much input he really had into like what they were doing with his team line of stuff, because usually it's going to be very derivative of the other work that was being done on the main line or across the rest of Adidas basketball. There was a thing where stateside we never got the 773-1 lights, which was basically just a redone upper for the 773s, but still had that same midsole, had their signature on it, it had the Rose logo there on the tongue and stuff, and the padding for the tongue was different. We never received them in the States as the 773 lights, but we did receive them as a different Adidas Crazy something shoe, and it was kind of weird, but it was the exact same shoe, just remove all the Rose branding. And I always found that to be just kind of like an interesting thing to kind of run into when you're looking through like East Bay Magazine. If I can find any pictures of them, I will show them to you guys. Again, I really kind of like this shoe. Out of the Englewood line, this is definitely my favorite model. The 2s well, the boosts are cool too, but like the 2s are probably my favorite model from the line. Because the 3s, I do like them, but I don't love them. The 1s are decent. I think, again, too, a lot of shoes to me come down to colorways and how you do the color blocking and stuff. You can have a shoe silhouette that you think the silhouette's the problem, when in reality it has nothing to do with the silhouette. It really just has to do with the color blocking. And I think the color blocking on all the Englewood 2.0s that I have, I think are great, and I think it's, really cool to see that. I also will say it's dope that, Derek was able to get them to do a line of shoes that was paying homage back to his back to Englewood, and I think that's something that's super dope that they have done. And the Englewood line, I think the best performer they had probably was the Englewood Boost, which I believe I've done a review before on the channel before, and if I have, I'll put it up here in the cards. But if I haven't, then maybe I'll do that one too before the month's over. Maybe we'll just do a bunch of Englewoods in a row. Or I'll break it up. I got another Englewood for you guys, but I'll hold off on that one. Yeah, but let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Do you like the 2.0s? Are you more of a fan of the 3.0s? Do you like the 1s? What's your favorite? Let me know why down in the comments, and let me know what you guys think of this shoe and this colorway. This Knicks colorway, pretty dope. I really love the metallic look to it, and the way, it's just kind of shiny, but they are a super loud pair of shoes. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you hooped in these two, tell me down in the comments. I never played basketball in these, like, to do an actual performance test and then play enough of them to do a performance test. But, they were all right. Again, I'm not a huge fan of low tops. But, they weren't horrible, in my memory at least. But yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, peace. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you then. Bye.